Welcome to the second video on the binomial expansion. Now we've looked at expressions for 1 plus x to the power n, where n is any rational number, and this is our basic formula. And remember, when n is not a positive integer, we get an infinite series. Now we've also had a look at expressions for 1 plus ax to the power n, and that's the same formula, but we've just replaced the x by ax. In this video, we're going to have a look at expansions in the form of a plus bx to the power n, where a is not 1. So, let's look at an example. We're going to expand 4 minus 3x to the power minus 1 in ascending powers of x up to x cubed. So let's have a look at that. So the first thing we need to do is take out the 4. And we want to end up with a 1, the first term in the bracket. So that's 1 minus 3 over 4x. And that's everything to the power minus 1. A 4 to the minus 1 is a quarter. And then we've got 1 minus 3 over 4x to the power minus 1. Now this term here is just the same as what we've been doing before, so let's do that expansion. So I'm going to leave the quarter outside, and then we've got 1 plus nx, and n is minus 1. And our x term, or our ax term, is minus 3/4 x. And then plus the x squared term is n minus 1 over 2 factorial multiplied by minus 3 over 4x, and all of that squared. And the x cubed term is n, which is minus 1, n minus 1, and then n minus 2, which gives me minus 3, and divide that by 3 factorial. And that's multiplied by minus 3 over 4x cubed. Right, let's simplify that. So, still going to leave the quarter outside. So that gives me 1. Minus minus gives me plus 3 over 4x. And then the third term, minus minus in the first two terms, gives me plus, and minus 3/4 squared is also plus. So the 1 multiplied by the 2 divided by 2 factorial cancels out, so we're left with minus 3/4 squared, and that's plus 9 over 16x squared. And the last term, we've got minus 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 in the first three terms, which gives me minus, and then minus 3/4 also gives me minus, so two minuses become plus, so that's plus, and the 1 times 2 times 3 cancels out with 3 factorial, and we're just left with 3 over 4 cubed. 3 cubed is 27, and 4 cubed is 64. And finally, I'm going to put in the quarter. So first term will be a quarter plus 3 over 16x plus 9 over 16 multiplied by 4 is 64, x squared, plus 27 over 64 times 4 is 256, x cubed. And I've just made a little error in the step above. It should be 27 over 64 x cubed, so I'll put that in there. And that's my expansion. So now it's your turn to have a go at some examples, and for homework I'd like you to expand this expression here, 3 plus x to the power a half, in ascending powers of x up to x cubed. And in question 2, slightly more tricky, but I'd like you to have a go at splitting this expression into partial fractions, Now if you've forgotten how to do that, have a look in the C4 book, chapter 1, and that will remind you. When you've done that, I'd like you to then expand the resulting expression into ascending powers of x up to x cubed, and then part C, state the value of x for which the expansion is valid. And I'd like you to hand that in next lesson.